Shannon, you could put us on. Okay, we are here on the matter of Rowley versus Keller. I have Mr. Fallahy representing the plaintiff. Well, I had Ms. Keller for a moment and then she dropped out, so I'll try again. We have, here she comes. We have the plaintiff, Kimberly Rowley, is present. Defendant Ashley Keller is present. And I also have Ed Rowley. I'm assuming I'm getting some feedback from somebody's phone. I can't tell whose it's coming from. Whoever it is, usually I get a indication, but it's gone in any event. And Mr. Rowley, what is your role in this matter?
Judge, it appears he may have locked up. I plan to call Mr. Rowley as a witness. It might not be right now at the start, but I do plan to call him as a witness. What I had anticipated doing was just to have my staff give him a call about 10, 15 minutes before we need him, and then he could testify. So I don't necessarily need him on the Zoom meeting right now.
I'll put him back in the waiting room.
Okay.
Okay, so we're here on a complaint to obtain grandparenting time. And Mr. Fallahy, I did just a quick bit of research on the standard for obtaining parenting time. It's like we've got a statute in Michigan. That statute creates a presumption that a fit parent's decision to deny grandparenting time does not create a substantial risk of harm to the child's mental, physical, and emotional health. And it is incumbent upon a grandparent seeking to obtain parenting time over a parent's objection to prove to rebut that presumption and to prove by a preponderance of evidence that the parent's decision to deny grandparenting time creates a substantial risk of harm to the child's mental, physical, or emotional health. So as I receive proofs today, I want to focus on that first. If your evidence is insufficient in my estimation to establish that there's a substantial risk of harm to the child's mental, physical, or emotional health, there won't be any need to go any further. So if you could direct the testimony you're presenting to that specific issue, that might help expedite things.
I will, Your Honor, and I agree completely with the court as you've outlined that standard. I have it up on my computer here as well. So I do agree that that's the appropriate burden of proof and the appropriate way to proceed.
Okay, so Ms. Rowley, would you raise your right hand, please? You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your full name for the record.
Kimberly June Rowley.
Go ahead, Mr. Fallahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. Actually, I would prefer, Judge, if you could also swear in Ms. Keller. I think I'd like to start with her, please.
Oh, okay. Ms. Keller, would you raise your right hand? You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your full name for the record.
Ashley Jean Keller.
You can put your hand down. Mr. Fell, he's going to ask you some questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Keller, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Are you in agreement with Kimberly Rowley having any grandparenting time with your children?
no, I'm not,
Why not?
because my kids don't want to go there, and every time they go there, Kim wants to badmouth people.
How do you know that?
Because my oldest daughter said every time they've been there, Kim wants to talk dirty about my boyfriend, which is unreasonable.
Okay. When was the last time you used any illegal drugs?
Years ago, 3 years ago,
What drug was that?
I was addicted to pain pills.
What type of pill was it that you used 3 years ago?
Narco.
How did you wean yourself, or how did you stop yourself from using those pain pills?
I detoxed because Bailey asked me to get clean.
So it must have been a pretty significant situation that you had going on if your own child, who was 11 at the time, right? Because Bailey's 14 now.
Yeah.
So she asked you to get clean.
Yeah, she said, I don't want to find you dead like you did my dad.
Pretty scary situation for the kids, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it was. They wasn't living with me at the time, but yeah, it was.
Okay. I want to establish a couple things here real quick, okay? Your two kids that are at issue in this case are Bailey and Stormy, is that correct?
Yes.
And Bailey's 14 years old.
Yes.
Stormy is 10 years old.
Yes.
Father, James Keller, was the son of my client, Kimberly Rowley, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Keller passed away in, I believe, October of 2014. Is that also correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you mentioned just a minute ago that you haven't used any drugs in 3 years. Would you be willing to appear for a drug test today if the judge ordered that?
Yes.
Okay. Are you willing to pay for a drug test?
No. I'm not paying for anything.
If Ms. Rowley was agreeable with paying for a drug test, you'd be willing to take one, a 12-panel drug test at the ADAM program next door to the courthouse, potentially?
Yeah, I would be. Kim's already called CPS and had drug tests taken on me, and I passed. So if she wants to waste her money, that's her problem.
Okay, all right. But you're certain it would be completely clean, right?
Yes.
Do you take any prescription medications right now?
No.
I think you mentioned Norco was what you had taken 3 years ago. Were you ever prescribed Norco?
Yes. That's
What
how
were
I
you
got it home.
What were you prescribed the Norco for?
Or back pain.
How did you end up with some lower back pain?
Bailey, I had all back labor. She sat on my spine.
Okay. So you testified before we got into a little bit of the background there that the kids were not living with you for a period of time. Could you
Yeah.
do me a favor and let's go through a bit of history regarding what's happened with your children, Bailey and Stormy?
The history is I got kicked
Well,
out of my apartment when James
hold
passed.
hold on one sec, okay? I'll try to walk you through it, okay? So Mr. Keller passed away in October of 2014. So where were you living at the time, and what happened after he passed away?
I was living in Southridge Apartments, and the office kicked me out because my guest overdosed in my bathroom, which was James. They kicked me out. I was evicted. I want to say it was March of 2015. I moved where I'm at now with my boyfriend in April, and we was living here. And then when we ended up moving out of here, my kids went to my mom's for about 6 months because I had no place to go and I wanted them to be safe. And while they was at my mom's, I got clean and my kids came back to me and they've been with me since.
Okay, that was a pretty condensed history, but you said you've been clean for about 3 years. Do you know the exact date, the last time you used the Norco?
It was June 25th of 2016. So almost 4 years and some odd months.
So you've been clean for 4.5 years then, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Any reason why you said 3 years previously? Was your math just off, or?
It's just, I don't think about it. It was a dark past.
Okay. And you've mentioned your significant other today. What's his name?
Randall McDowell.
Is his middle name Scott? There's a lot of references to
Yeah.
Scott in. Okay.
Yes.
Does he go by Scott?
Yes.
Does he use any illegal drugs?
No,
When was the last time he used any illegal drugs?
he hasn't.
In his whole life?
That I know of, no.
Okay. How long have you been dating this Randall Scott McDowell?
6 years.
When did your relationship with him start?
December of 2014.
I'm sorry,
Was there a period?
I didn't catch the year. There was a,
December 2014.
thank you.
Was there a period of time, Ms. Keller, where you were using drugs, illegal drugs, that is, while you were with and dating Mr. McDowell?
Yes, but he didn't know about it.
How did you hide that from him?
I did it in my car.
Okay. And was it just the pain meds, or was it some
It
cocaine
was
as
just the
well?
pain meds.
Have you ever used cocaine?
Once or twice a long, long time ago with James Keller.
Okay. How about heroin? Have you ever
Never
used
in
any
my
heroin?
life.
Any other illegal drugs you've used other than cocaine? And let's just assume for purposes of today that marijuana is legal, since it is now.
Nothing else.
Nothing else? What do you do to support yourself financially? Do you work?
I help my stepdad and I receive death benefits.
The death benefits you receive are relative to Mr. Keller's passing, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
And how much do you receive per month?
It's for me and both girls, it's $272, I think, is total. Yes.
$272.
And then I help my stepdad to make cash money on the side.
Okay, what do you do
He
for
hauls
him?
scrap.
Okay, so you assist him
Yes.
with that then? Okay. Does Mr. McDowell
No,
work?
he watches my kids.
Well, how often are you gone from the home?
When my stepdad needs me, sometimes it's 3 days a week, sometimes it's 5.
How much income would you estimate that you make per week or per month, let's say, I guess? Because it sounds like your weeks they vary. But how much income do you make from the side job with your dad every month?
About $600 a month. Yeah.
600?
So, Mr. Fallahy, I understand that one of the best interest factors is the ability to provide for the children, but I want you to focus on the risk of harm to the children's mental, physical, and emotional health. I don't want to go through all of the best interest factors until you've satisfied the burden that you must satisfy before I even get into the best interest factors.
Okay. Thank you, Judge. Ms. Keller, Stormy and Bailey have some half siblings. Fair statement?
Yes.
And to be more specific, there are 3 other children that Mr. Keller had who are the half siblings of Bailey and Stormy, correct?
Correct.
And do you let Bailey and Stormy have a relationship with their half brothers and sisters?
Their mother stopped the relationship after James died.
Thank you, but I didn't ask that. I asked if you personally
No,
allow
I
them.
don't take my kids to Amber's, no. I'm not getting cockroaches and bed bugs.
Okay. Is Amber's got cockroaches and bed bugs? Is that what you're implying?
Last I knew, yeah.
Have you been there?
Not on our Ganson house, but every other house she's had cockroaches and bed bugs.
Okay. So do you think it's important for Bailey and Stormy to have a relationship with their siblings?
Yeah, I do. And that's between me and Amber to discuss, not Kim. It's not Kim's kids.
Okay. Do you think it's important for Bailey and Stormy to have a relationship with their father's side of the family since he's no longer alive?
Yes.
And what do you do to facilitate?
Everybody but Kim gets to see them kids.
Okay. Who on dad's side gets to see the kids?
Grandma Linda sees the kids anytime Grandma Linda wants the kids.
I apologize. Who's Grandma Linda? I'm not familiar with.
James's grandma.
Oh, so it'd be the kid's great grandma?
Yes. And Grandpa Tom sees them, which is James's dad.
Okay, and how often does Grandma Linda and Grandpa Tom get to see Bailey and Stormy?
Grandma Linda calls when she's feeling all right, and she sees them when she wants them.
Okay, what about
And
Grandpa
Grandpa
Tom?
Tom, same thing. When he wants to see him, he calls and asks for him.
And you will usually take them over to him?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, after Mr. Keller passed away, for about 5 years, the children had consistent and ongoing contact with their grandmother, Kimberly. Is that correct?
They didn't have consistent, no.
Okay, well, what type of contact did they have then?
Right after James passed, she was in their life for a couple months, and then she disappeared to be with a guy, and then Kim came back and wanted to be in their life. They was in their life, and then Kim got a stick up her butt and wanted to throw attitude when things didn't go her way, and they wasn't in her life, and then they was back in her life. It's been off and on since day one with Bailey.
So it hasn't been off and on with Stormy then?
Yeah, it's been off and on with Stormy. When Stormy was a baby, Kim jumped ship and moved to California. So she didn't care about him then when she moved to California. So,
Well, after Mr. Keller had passed away, you would regularly reach out to Kim for money, though, wouldn't you?
yeah, she was helping if I needed gas to get him to school and all that.
What about cigarettes? Would you ask
Yep,
her to pay for
she got me.
cigarettes?
Yes, she got me cigarettes.
And would you condition your provision of the children to their grandmother just solely based on whether she gave you money or not?
Never did I tell Kim she couldn't see my kids if I didn't get money. Never. I stopped allowing Kim to see my kids because she wanted to backmouth me and my boyfriend in front of my kids.
Okay, and if that were to have stopped, you would have continued that relationship, is that correct?
Yes, if that would have stopped, if Kim could have kept her mouth shut about things she knows nothing about, she would have still been in my kid's life. I would have been more than gladly allowed to let her see my kids. But I'm not going to let my kids go somewhere where she's going to backmouth two people they love and care about and make them feel bad about it.
Have you ever personally heard Kimberly badmouth you or Mr. McDowell? Or is
Yes.
this just what you're hearing from others?
I've personally heard Kim badmouth Mr. McDowell. How he's a
Okay.
low-life piece of shit, how he don't need to be around him. He's abusive. He's mean. He's never hit my kids. He's never beat my kids. He's never punished my kids. I think the worst thing he's ever done is taken a toy.
Okay, and when was this statement allegedly made by Kimberly?
She didn't allegedly make it. She sent it in a text message. It was, I want to say January 2019 when we had that big snowstorm and it got like negative 40 degrees. My car broke down. The engine just quit. It wouldn't move out of drive. And I asked him to take me to the grocery store for dinner. I just needed a ride there to pick up dinner and a ride back home. And she said, I'm not leaving them kids there with him to abuse them. And
Okay,
she
so
wanted me to dress my children, take them out in negative 40-degree weather to go 4 minutes down the road to Kroger's.
okay,
And that's when
so,
Kim stopped seeing my kids.
okay, do you know specifically when the last time was that Kimberly had seen either Bailey or Stormy?
She snuck to my mom's last summer and seen them.
Okay, so she's just seen them then maybe 6 months ago or so, something like that?
Not this past summer, the summer before, so 2019 summer, because this summer they didn't leave because of the COVID.
Okay, all right. So the last time you're aware of Kimberly seeing the kids then was in the summer of 2019?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I asked you if you have heard Kimberly make any disparaging remarks about you, or if she's done that to you, but is it only about Mr.
No,
McDowell?
she's done it to me too. She's called CPS on me, said that I abuse my kids, I leave them home alone, that my kids don't have food, I don't take care of my kids, they're dirty, they don't have toys, I neglect them, I do drugs in front of them, and every CPS case has been thrown out because there's no evidence, no proof. I passed their drug test, everything.
How do you know she called CPS?
Because when I asked, they told me they can't tell me exact names, but they don't rule out grandparents. And I said my mom's name, and they said never heard of that one. And I said Kim's name, and they said, oh, that could be a possibility. And one of the times I seen her name on the complaint file.
Okay, so you don't know for sure, but you're speculating that it may have been Kimberly.
Yeah.
Fair statement?
Yes.
Where do the kids go to school right now?
They're in virtual reality. They do the online stuff because of COVID.
Yeah, but through what school district?
Look, Stormy's in the elementary, Townsend Elementary, and Bailey's in the high school, Vandercook High School.
What grades are they in?
Bailey's 9th, Stormy's 5th.
You could estimate, Ms. Keller, how many days of the year in 2019 the kids got to either see or stay with Kimberly Rowley for a period of time. Could you estimate how many days that occurred in 2019?
Under my acknowledgement, none. They wasn't supposed to go there or see them. But Bailey told me when they was at my mom's in 2019 that they went out and spent the night with Grandma Kim a few nights.
Okay.
So I'm going to say maybe 10 in 2019 because she was sneaking around talking to my mom trying to get them.
And then in 2020, are there any days that you're
None.
aware of? None?
No, my kids have been home since COVID started. They haven't left the house.
Okay.
We
in
went
2000
Christmas, stuff like that, but they haven't left.
Okay. In 2018, if you could estimate how many days they spent time with or spent overnights with Ms. Rowley.
In 2018, they was spending like every other weekend with Miss Rowley. And then she
Nope.
wanted to start bad mouthing people, and I told them they ain't going out there. Told her that they ain't going out there because they don't need to hear her opinions on who she likes and don't like. She's supposed to be an adult. They're kids.
And how about 2017, if you could estimate how much time did the kids spend with Kimberly Rowley?
They spent a couple weekends out there. It wasn't every other weekend like 2018, but they was spending weekends out there. Because at the time, Kim had their 2 siblings out there from foster care.
Same question for 2016. If you remember, how many days would the kids spend, or did the kids spend approximately with Ms. Rowley?
They didn't spend any overnights in 2016 that I can remember. She would come get them for a couple hours, bring them home.
And then finally, in 2015, if you remember, is there significant time spent by the kids with their grandmother in 2015?
No. She was living with her daughter at the time, and she took them to like little girls' dates, the movies, or got their nails painted and brought them right back home. They didn't spend overnights with her.
Did you happen to keep a calendar of any of these years that we've just discussed, so you know?
No, I
Okay.
didn't think I would need to. Didn't think Kim was a vindictive person.
And you don't feel like it would be detrimental to the children or cause them a potential risk of harm if they were to not spend any time with Ms. Rowley?
No, I don't.
Why do you feel that way?
Because my kids are perfectly happy and they haven't seen Miss Rowley.
Your kids in any counseling or therapy?
No.
How are their grades in school?
Good.
What type of grades do they get?
Stormy's still in the number, so she's getting 3s and 4s, and Bailey's get A's and B's.
For Vandercook's grading system, is a 1 good or is a 4 good?
A 4 is good. 4 is outstanding. 3's grade level.
Then 2 and 1 are below grade level?
Yes. 2 is below grade level. 3 needs effort, or 1 needs effort.
Okay. Do you, the home you're living in there, do you and Mr. McDowell rent that or do you own it?
We rent it.
You've been living in that home for 6 years, you said?
We moved.
Mr. Fallahy, this sounds like best interest factors. I want you to focus on the harm to the children if they're not allowed to see their grandmother.
Your Honor, I'm done for now with Ms. Keller. I'm gonna just reserve the right to recall her, and I'll call Ms. Rowley next, please.
Certainly, if you can establish that the threshold's been met, I'll allow you to continue questioning about the best interest factors.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Rowley, I put you under oath earlier, so you are still under oath. You understand that?
I do.
Go ahead, Mr. Fallahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. Kimberly, can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right, just a few background questions for you here. And I know it's not going to be easy to discuss, but your son had passed away, I believe, in October 2014. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And he's the father of Bailey, who's 14 years old, and Stormy, who's 10 years old. Fair statement?
Yeah.
And Bailey and Stormy's last name is Keller. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you've heard the testimony today of Ms. Keller. Is that correct?
Yes, I heard.
Do you agree with it?
No, I do not.
Do you feel specifically that if Stormy and Bailey are not allowed to spend time with you as a grandparent, that it would create a substantial risk to their mental, physical, or emotional health?
I do, Bailey especially.
Why do you feel that way?
Because myself and Ashley's mother played an instrumental role in caring for those girls after my son died. Ashley went on a bit of a, which is understandable. She was grieving, but she was gone for a while, mentally and physically. And myself and Sissy took care of those girls and forged even stronger bonds than we did the entire time since they were born. The majority of their time was spent with me and Sissy while Ashley was doing whatever Ashley was doing.
Okay, so just for the court's information, can you explain who Sissy is, please?
Sissy is Ashley's mom.
Okay, and how is your relationship with Sissy? It sounds like you guys get along okay?
Yes, Sissy and I get along good.
Okay. I don't want to go through too lengthy of a history here, but could we start with shortly after, or right around the time that your son passed away, and could you give the court a bit of an overview, if you would, for each year, how much time you actually got to spend with the girls and why you feel like it would be detrimental to them if you know, they don't spend any time with you moving forward?
Okay. Immediately, it was approximately 2 weeks after my son passed away, I went over to watch the girls because Ashley had an appointment. And there was a guy there that I introduced myself into, and I said, "Hi, I'm Kim. I'm Jimmy's mom." And he said, "He's Scott." And I said, "Okay, well," I remembered him from being a friend of my son's. And I told him it was nice of him to come over and express his condolences. And he said, "Thank you," and got up and walked into the kitchen. And then a few minutes later, I hear him and Ashley in the kitchen whisper fighting. And then he left.
Yeah.
It was shortly after that that I learned that Scott had moved into the apartment, and Stormy, being 4 years old at the time, enjoyed having a man around. She loved her daddy dearly and latched on to Scott. And they, as far as I know, even to this day, Stormy and Scott have an okay relationship. Bailey, on the other hand, refused to spend any time around Scott and would not leave her grandma's house. Her sissy, Ashley's mother.
Why is that? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. She did not take a liking to Scott. And later, you know, in hindsight, now I know it was because Scott didn't take a liking to Bailey. He was very mean to Bailey. He was verbally abusive to Bailey. I don't know. I have no proof that he ever hit Bailey or touched Bailey in any way. But I've had conversations repeated to me by Bailey that are not nice. They're not
Okay.
nice. So Bailey went to stay with Sissy, and Stormy stayed there in the apartment with Ashley and Scott until, like Ashley said, she was kicked out of the apartment in early 2015. At that time, she went to live with her mom and eventually cleaned out all of her apartment and put all of their stuff into storage. And her and the girls went to live with her in her mom's basement, which was fine because the girls were with grandma, so that was great. They spent their time in between me and Sissy, and Ashley would go off for at least a week at a time, not even knowing what was going on with the girls. She would just disappear.
Was there a time where Ashley was then kicked out of her mom's home?
Ashley was kicked out of her mom's house for doing cocaine in her mom's basement. And Ashley's mom has a strict no drugs policy in her home. And my granddaughter told me that Ashley had used her favorite. She was mad at her mom because her mom had used her favorite straw to sniff that white stuff. So she went and told Grandma Sissy, and Grandma Sissy kicked him out. And that was later in 2000, like, I don't know, mid-summer time, 2015. And Ashley went off to be with Scott. I don't know where he was living at the time. It didn't matter to me because the girls were safe with Sissy. So Sissy and I took care of the girls. We made sure they got back and forth to school, and we did everything for the girls. And Ashley popped in every once in a while when she was trying to get sober. This continued through 2015 and 2016. In late 2016, Ashley had made up with her mom and had moved back in with her mom and was going to rehab. Her brother had gotten her signed up at rehab, and she was going to rehab. And she was sending me pictures. She sent me a picture of her coin, her 30-day coin for being clean. And she sent me a picture of a t-shirt that they had given her saying that she had completed rehab. And she was back at her mom's, but then her and her mom got in a fight. and she got kicked out of her mom's. I don't know what it was about. All Ashley would say was she wasn't following mom's rules because she was an adult, not a kid, a teenager. Mom was trying to give her teenager rules, but I didn't really care because Sissy and I were taking care of the girls. The girls were happy. The girls were, between Sissy and I, they were clothed, they had a home, they got back and forth to school, we kept them happy, we kept them stable.
Okay, and so I think that was through the end of 2016. So would you say for the majority of 2015 and 2016 that the girls were either living or staying with you approximately half of the year then?
Yes. They never lived with me. They never lived with me.
Okay.
They lived with Sissy at Sissy's house, and Ashley came and went, but they stayed with me. They would stay the weekend with me, and then they would stay the weekend with Sissy. And then during the school year, they stayed with Sissy and visited me and stayed on the weekends. In the summertime, they would stay for weeks at a time, and Ashley would just pop in.
Okay.
We never knew where she was or what she was doing. And, our concern was the girls. She could go live her life. That was her business. We just wanted to make sure the girls were safe.
And then moving into 2017, what do you recall from 2017 in terms of where the girls were staying? Were they with you? Were they with Sissy? Where were they?
2017, still living at Sissy's. I'm not sure. Ashley was still dating, going in and breaking up and dating with Scott. So she'd spend a week or two at Scott's, they'd break up, she'd go spend a week or two at her mom's. That's how it's been since my son passed away. That's how it's always been, and up until late 2018 is when she moved in with Scott and decided that the girls had to follow Scott's rules, and now it was time for Scott to have his say. So we had to start hiding. I mean, Ashley was still speaking with me, and I was still seeing the girls as long as everything was going her way.
I don't know about.
And
She's talking about.
But then she started listening to Scott and talking to Scott and moved in with Scott. And then it turned into, she started selling me my son's belongings.
What do you mean by what do you mean by that? What do you mean she started selling you your son's belongings?
Can I cut in here? Because Kim asked for 3 things that I said I wasn't going to get rid of, and she offered to buy them.
Hold on. Ms. Keller, you cannot cut in. The
Okay.
only thing you can do, you can make objections if you think there's a rule of evidence that's being violated. And if there are things that you want to address, I will give you a chance to do that when your turn, but you can't just interrupt.
Okay. Well, I've objected to a lot of things she said.
On what basis?
On the basis that my kids lived with my mom and her from 2015 till 2018. That's a lie. My kids were at my mom's maybe 6 months.
All right. Hold on. That's not a valid objection that you disagree with her testimony. If you disagree with her testimony, I will give you a chance to address those things after she's done. But
Okay.
you can't dispute what she's saying while she's saying it. You have to wait until it's your turn.
Okay. And that's fine, because I do have a lot to say about what she said, because she's saying all lies, and my 14-year-old
Okay,
right here too.
We'll give you a chance.
Okay, thank you.
Judge, I think Ms. Keller just said her 14-year-old standing right there with her.
Yeah.
I sure hope not. I mean, that I would
Yeah.
ask the court to have Ms. Keller be in her own room by herself without influence of others. And I could hear whispering going on. It sounds like Mr. McDowell's probably there too, giving his 2 cents while this is going on as well.
Why is she saying 2 cents?
It's a,
Hold on, hold on. This isn't a free-for-all. Just because you happen to be in your home, when you're on this screen, you're in my courtroom, and you have to conduct yourselves as if you are in my courtroom. I don't let people speak out in my courtroom. I remove people from my courtroom who speak out and speak out of turn. So, Ms. Keller, what I'm going to do is mute your microphone because I don't want to hear what's coming until it's time to hear your testimony. Whether or not you want someone else in the room with you is up to you. Are either of the girls with you in the room right now?
Bailey is present, sitting right next to me. Yes,
Has
because
been
she has
there
a
the
lot.
whole-
Yes, she has been. She has a lot to say about Kim too.
So she is going to want a chance to testify herself.
She already said she don't want to go.
Yes.
Tell her. Tell him. No, you.
That's Bailey.
Hold on. If a 14-year-old wants to sit through this hearing, I will allow it.
Thank you.
All right, I am going to mute your microphone. When it's time for you to talk, you can unmute it. Go ahead, Mr. Falley.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Rowley, before we got off track there for a minute, you had been testifying, I think, that Ms. Keller had offered to sell you some of your son's property back. Can you explain what you were trying to say to the judge?
Yeah, I'm sorry, can I just make a statement about what I just observed?
Well, no, but I can ask you,
Okay.
I'll ask you a question about it, okay?
Okay. In 2017, Ashley went to jail for fraud for the Girl Scouts of America. She had sold cookies, collected money, and not turned in the money. She went to jail for it. She started calling me when she got out of jail and asking for money because she had to come up with a certain amount of money or she was going back to jail. And I told her no, that I was done with the money thing. She had been using this money thing for years. If I don't give her whatever it is that she asks for, then she just kind of goes missing and she's never once said, if you don't give me money, you can't see these girls. She's never once said that. But she'll call and ask for money. I'll tell her no. And then I can't find her for weeks. I will call and she's not answering her phone. She will shut her phone off. I will call her mom and ask her, Mom, have you seen Ashley? Will you tell her to call me? And she says, okay. Ashley never calls me. She just disappears and won't answer her phone. A couple weeks later, she'll call and she'll ask for money and I'll say no. And here we go again.
Okay, so.
And so she called me and she told me that she had been to her storage unit and she found a bracelet that I had bought my son for Father's Day. And if I give her $35, she'd give me the bracelet. And I told her that's absolutely ridiculous. I said, absolutely not. You can, maybe you could do the right thing and give that bracelet to one of his sons. And she says,
Mr.
well, no.
Can we focus on the emotional health of these two girls? I'm hearing so much stuff that I don't need to hear and I don't want to hear unless this evidentiary threshold can be met.
Yes, Judge. Yes. Kimberly, let me try to focus you back into 2017. You had already testified about the amount of time you spent with the kids in 15 and 16 after your son passed away. Can you focus on 2017 and inform the court about how much time these girls were spending with you in 2017?
2017 was the same as 2016 and 2015. They went in between me and Ashley's mother. Ashley was in and out of the picture. She was with Mr. McDowell, and when she broke up with Mr. McDowell, she came back and tried to be in the girls' lives. The girls were at my house nearly every single weekend. And during the summer, they were at my house during the summer, almost the entire summer. Sissy used me as a babysitter. When her and her husband wanted to go do something, they stayed with me. When I was doing something, they stayed with her. And
Okay.
it was that way for 15, 16, and 17.
And then how about, oh, sorry, go ahead. Is there something else for 2017?
No. 2017, she had also went to rehab and for the pain pills, and was sending me text messages and stuff telling me about how she was done with the pain pills and she wanted to do better by the girls, and she was going to try to get good with her mom and start seeing the girls again. I've never once called CPS about Ashley. I've never once called CPS, period.
Okay. So Ashley testified earlier that she's been clean and sober since, it sounds like, 2016. Do you agree with that or disagree with that based on the information you have?
Oh, I disagree with that, but I have no way to prove that.
Okay.
I disagree with it simply because she's been at my house stoned out of her mind.
Can you explain what she looks like when she comes to your house?
She's come to my house before, and she has been very jittery, very nervous, her hands are constantly moving. Her eyes are just everywhere and glassy. And you can tell that she's obviously had taken something.
Do we have a time frame for that?
That was up until the last time that I've seen her.
When was the last time you saw her, Kimberly?
Last time I physically saw Ashley was 2018. Yeah. Fall of 2018.
Okay, and she exhibited. Okay, and I apologize for interrupting you there, but she exhibited some outward signs to you that made it appear to you that she was intoxicated or under the influence of something.
Yes, not intoxicated, under the influence of pain pills, probably.
Okay. All
because
right.
when I initially contacted you about going for grandparent rights, I had just been at my ex-mother-in-law, the girl's great grandmother, Linda, the one that Ashley mentioned. And Ashley had just called her and asked her if she wanted to see the girls. I was there when Ashley called her, and I heard Linda's side of the conversation. And Ashley asked her if she wanted to see the girls, and Linda said, yes, of course she wanted to see the girls. And Ashley said that she would get back with her at a time to visit, that she would bring the girls over to visit. And then Ashley said, by the way, do you have any Vicodin? And Linda said, no, I don't have any Vicodin. And Ashley said, then I'll call you back when I can bring the girls over. And Ashley never called back.
Okay, and that was in 2018?
That was in 2020. That was
2020.
Yeah, that was when I initially retained you as a lawyer.
Okay, all right. Let's take a step back for a minute. I think you've testified about 2017. So 15, 16, and 17, the girls were with you or Sissy a significant amount of time. I think you were just getting started on 2018, but can you describe how often or how many times you were seeing the girls in 2018, please?
2018, I saw them regularly. Ashley's never really been a big part of whether I saw the girls or not. Only when she was when she wasn't getting along with her mom. And then she would intervene and say, no, you're not seeing the kids. And that was always over something stupid. I mean, in January of 2018, we bought her brand new tie rods for her car. And we put them on in my garage. But Scott couldn't know about this. Scott thought that her stepdad was doing this. So we had to connive a way for Ashley to come and get her vehicle out of my garage because my husband had just fixed it and paid for it and done all of the work on it. But Scott couldn't know about this. So we had to call Sissy. Sissy had to go get Ashley and make sure that Scott didn't know that Ashley had been at my house. And this is how the entirety of 2018 went. She would call and ask me if I wanted to see the girls, and I would say yes. And we would arrange for them to come over. And then she would say, oh, by the way, do you have $10 for gas? And I would say, no, I'm not giving you money. I mean, you want me to come pick up the girls? That's fine. And I would wind up picking them up from her mother's house because Scott couldn't know that she was letting the girls come over. And that's how the entirety of 2018 went. Because now,
sorry, go ahead.
Because now he's back in the picture and he's calling the shots and he doesn't like me, which is fine. He doesn't need to like me. We're talking about the girls here. We're talking about these girls having a relationship with their grandmother. We're not talking about whether grandma likes Scott or not. And I have never once said anything derogatory about Scott or Ashley to those girls. And when they came to me with problems, I always tried to find I always tried to turn it into a lesson. They would say that they got grounded because of something, and I would tell them, well, maybe you need to pay more attention to what is going on around you. Because Bailey has a way of getting zoned out on her phone and she'll be playing games and then she's grounded off her phone because she was on it for too long. And I'm like, well, do you need to start not focusing so much on the games and the socializing and spend a little time with mom? You know, stuff like that. There was never anything, never. I wouldn't put my grandkids in that position.
Now, you just heard, obviously, the interaction between Ms. Keller, and it sounds like Mr. McDowell, and the fact that Bailey, it sounds like, is sitting right next to her mom in the room there. Knowing these people like you do, including Bailey, do you think that's a good atmosphere for Bailey to be in?
It breaks my heart that Bailey is sitting there listening to all this stuff that I have to say about her mom and about Scott. She's a 14-year-old girl. She needs to be a 14-year-old girl. She doesn't need to worry about all the adult stuff. And it does bother me. And as soon as I don't know if you guys heard him, but I just heard him tell her. He just told Bailey, tell her now. Tell them now. And Bailey said, yes. You heard Bailey's little voice. I think that's pretty crappy that she's putting her through that.
There are some, in your family, you have some certain holidays that I think you find to be significant, and I'll just throw Halloween out there. Were there certain things that Bailey and Stormy would do with you and your family around the Halloween holiday, or any other holidays that where they celebrated those holidays with you after your son passed away?
Correct. My son was always really big on Halloween. And we always had a pumpkin carving night around Halloween. It wouldn't have to be on Halloween, just around Halloween. And if Ashley's mad, they're not allowed to come to pumpkin carving night. They did for 15 and 16 and 17. Ashley was mad at me on 2018, so they were not allowed to come. And she's mad at me on 19, so they're not allowed to come. I haven't seen them on Christmas for 2019 or 20. I did see them Christmas 2018. We had family pictures taken and they spent time with their siblings. The other 3 kids were over here as well, and they spent time with their siblings in 2018 on Christmas. That's the last time they've seen their siblings.
And you raise another good point. Can you explain, based on your interaction with Bailey and Stormy's other siblings, their relationships before that came to an end?
After my son passed away, they were all close to begin with, but after he passed away, they kind of formed a little group. And it was really cool when they would spend time with me. After my son passed away, Ashley approached Amber, who is the mother of the other siblings, and asked her if the kids were still going to be able to come over. And Amber told her no, that they would have to see each other at my house because Ashley was on drugs and Amber did not want her children over there. So we kind of worked out a regular thing where they would all come and spend time together at my house. And they formed their own little group where they didn't even want to visit with Grandma or Aunt Sam or anybody else. They wanted to visit amongst themselves. And they would all sit together on the front porch at that time where I was living. And it was really neat because they would sit there and tell stories about their dad. And they all got really, really close. And that's what they did for 2015, 16, 17, and 18. They all spent time together at my house because Ashley and Amber weren't agreeing with them being at either of their houses. So their time spent with the siblings was with Grandma Kim. And that's what they did for up until Ashley stopped visits in 2019.
And do you feel it's detrimental to Bailey and Stormy to not be able to spend at least a little bit of time with their half siblings?
Very much so. It's the oldest, whose name is Seth, and Bailey or Stormy is the youngest. And Seth and Stormy have got a tremendous bond. And Seth is, I mean, he's 16 now, but he still gets upset if you mention his little sister. He's pretty tore up over it. And the other 2, their names are Caden and Cece. Her name's Alicia. We call her Cece. And they ask me constantly still, when can I see my sister? When can I see my sister? And I keep telling them, I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, I think it's very detrimental to all 5 of them.
And how old, you mentioned Seth is 16. How old is Cece and I'm sorry, what was the name of the other child?
Caden.
Caden. Okay, how old are Caden and Cece?
Caden is 14 and Cece is 13.
So you've testified obviously about the timeline and the time you spent with Bailey and Stormy from 2015 through 2018 and even part of 2019. But can you testify for the judge when the last time was that you had seen either Bailey and or Stormy?
The last time I saw Stormy was in February of 2020. She was at her grandma's house, and her grandma texted me, Ashley's mom. She texted me and said, I have Stormy. I'm going to Myers. Do you want to see her? And I said, absolutely. Go ahead and stop by. And she says, I can't stop by. I'm being followed by Scott. But if you accidentally run into us, that'd be okay. And I said, sure. I got dressed and I went to Myers and accidentally run into them in the milk aisle. And I got to visit with Stormy for a few minutes, and Sissy had to hurry up and leave because Stormy had to be back to Ashley's by a certain time. And that is the last time that I saw Stormy.
How did Stormy react when she saw you in February of last year?
Stormy, Sissy wanted it to be a surprise. So she didn't tell Stormy that I was going to be at Myers. And Stormy saw me in the milk aisle. She was at one end and I was at the other. And she saw me and she yelled, Grandma Kim. And she ran to me and jumped in my arms so fast that she knocked me over. And we just kind of sat on the ground and laughed and hugged each other. And then we got up and kind of making a scene. So we got up and walked around for a little bit. But yeah, she was quite surprised and happy to see me. And then she wanted to know where her Christmas presents were, because I wasn't allowed to see them on Christmas. So she wanted to know where her Christmas presents were. So I took her Christmas presents over to the other grandma's house. So her and Stormy could have, or Bailey could have their Christmas presents over there.
As far as you know, did Grandma Sissy give those presents to them?
She did give them their Christmas presents. She didn't give them the Christmas present from my dad because it contained money. And Ashley asked specifically where the Christmas present from my dad was. And Sissy told her that I didn't send Christmas presents from Dad, that he didn't send any this year because she didn't want Ashley to have the girls' money. So the next time that the girls came over, Sissy took them to the store and let them spend their money from my dad. And I just want to let you know, I want to let the judge know that this isn't just me talking. I have not deleted a single text message since my son passed away. I have thousands of text messages to corroborate all of this. I have all of this in Sissy's words. I have all of this in Ashley's words. I have all of this in Bailey's words. I haven't deleted anything for the last 6 years, so I can prove any of this if need be.
Thank you, Kim. And I appreciate that as well. We may get into some of that evidence here in a little bit. Let me focus your attention now on Bailey. You said the last time you saw Stormy then, I guess, was about 11 months ago or so.
Yes.
When was the last time you saw Bailey?
Last time I saw Bailey was in October of 2019. Again, she was with Sissy, and Sissy called me and said that they were with her and she had to take them home soon, and did I want to see them? And I said yes, and she brought them over. They came over, they stayed for about a half an hour and visited, and then Sissy took them home. And that's the last time that I saw Bailey.
And how did Bailey appear to you, or how did she approach you at all when she was brought to your home on that occasion by Grandma Sissy?
Bailey was happy to see me. Bailey and Stormy were there at that time. They were both happy to see me. They both come in and give us hugs and are talking 100 miles an hour. and we had a really good visit. And it went fine. We visited for about a half an hour, and I was really happy to see her. It'd been a little while since I'd seen her as well. It was the summer of 2019 was really sporadic because Ashley had decided that, like she said, and she's right, we did have that phone conversation about going to the store. And I did tell her I was not going to be the reason those girls were left alone with Scott. And that was that. She said, well, the girls aren't coming. And I said, then I'm not giving you a ride. I'm not going to be the reason. She says, why that? And I says, because he's mean. He is mean. I won't be the reason that they are left there with him. And we got off the phone, and that turned into another one of the, she's just not answering the phone. I called repeatedly. She's not answering the phone. Finally, about a month later, I get a text out of nowhere asking me for money. And I'm like, okay. I actually think I did give her the money at that time because she said the girls could come over. So she let the girls come over. I gave her the money and the girls came over. Actually, Stormy came over first, but Bailey was staying at her Aunt Bobby's house. So Bailey came over later in the weekend. But
and what was the approximate date of this?
This was March of 2019. March 8th, I believe it was.
How would you describe personally your relationship with the girls, with Bailey and Stormy?
I've had an incredibly close relationship with Bailey and Stormy. And the other three, since their dad died, they needed us. They needed me, and they needed Sissy, and they needed someone to be there because Mom wasn't. So we've been incredibly close.
Okay. And I think the prior testimony is that Amber is the mother of the other three children. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, she is.
How is, I don't need you to get too far into this, but you and Amber have been able to arrange time where you get to see the other three children pretty regularly. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, I see the other three, and they call me on because they're older. They all have telephones, so they're calling me and FaceTiming and everything. And they come over often, and there's no problem with that relationship.
So you saw Stormy last in February of 2020. And I believe this case was filed in September of 2020. So can you explain for the judge why there was a period of 7 months there roughly before you decided to move forward with seeking this grandparenting time?
I was waiting for Ashley to get over it. I was hoping that she would realize that my mother-in-law relationship is different from grandma relationship, that it doesn't matter what she and I feel about each other as long as we can be there for the girls. And that's what I've always tried to stress to her with her and with Scott, and all of it is it doesn't matter what you guys are doing. As long as we're all taking care of these girls, then your life doesn't, that's your business. That's not my business. I don't even need to have a say in all of that. I just need the girls to be okay. And I waited out the summer like she always does. She gets mad and she'll disappear for a couple of weeks, and then she gets a hold of me again. So I guess that's what I was doing, was waiting out the summer. And I called, I would go over there, and I took presents over there on Stormy's birthday. I knocked on the door. Scott answered the door. He looked at my husband and he said, "Oh, fuck no." And he slammed the door shut and he locked the door. I had to leave Stormy's birthday presents on the steps. And I went over there another time with the kids, the older three, because they wanted to see their sisters. And I told them, Ashley doesn't want me at her house, so I'm not going to the door with you. You guys go to the door and knock on the door. Again, Scott answered the door and he closed the door. He told them just a minute and he closed the door and left them sitting on the front porch. So I yelled out the car window, "Get back in the car, where they don't want you guys here." And I've called and I called and I called, and Ashley didn't have a phone. Ashley's phone got shut off or something. So I called Scott's phone. So Scott blocked me on his phone. So I couldn't get through on his phone. And I don't know how else I was supposed to get in touch with them, because there was no way for me to get in touch with them. I tried and I tried and I tried. And finally, after not getting anything, I decided, I guess I need to retain a lawyer and go about it that way.
And Kimberly, specifically, what is it that you think would be appropriate or in Bailey and Stormy's best interest for grandparenting time to be spent with you?
I guess I would like, at the minimum, 1 weekend a month. I mean, all I want is to see my grandkids, and all I want is for my grandkids to see me. And it's not just about me seeing them. It's about them seeing me and them seeing their Aunt Sam and their cousin Julian and their Uncle Ed and their great grandpa Jim. I mean, all these people they were tremendously close to, and all of a sudden they're just gone. It's got to hurt. It's got to hurt. It hurts all of us. It's got to hurt them.
And because of that, being intertwined and close with your side of the family, and then ultimately just kind of ripping that away, do you think that is something that's detrimental to the kids in terms of their mental, physical well-being? Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know how it couldn't be. I mean, someone just totally changes your complete way of life because they don't like your grandma. That don't make sense to me. Are you still there? I lost you, Mr. Fallahy.
Oh, I can still see you. Can you see
me?
me?
There you are. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I was just looking at a couple notes there for a minute. Okay, Kimberly, hold on just one sec. Kimberly, I know we've gone over a lot. Is there anything else that you can think of that you wanted to tell the judge that I haven't specifically asked you already?
I don't think so. This is also overwhelming. And with my granddaughter sitting right there listening to all of this, I can't think of anything. No.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions for you, but Ms. Keller has the ability to ask you some questions as well next, and she may choose to do that. So don't hang up or go anywhere, and the judge will give you some directions here, okay?
Okay. Did you want to talk to Amber, Corey, or Sam?
I may, Kimberly, but for now, Ms. Keller has the opportunity to ask you questions.
Okay.
So before we do that, so Mr. Fallahy, do you have any further testimony to present on the issue of whether the denial of grandparenting time would create a substantial risk of harm to either child's mental, physical, or emotional health?
Not from this witness, Your Honor, but I do have 3 other people that I have planned to have testify, and I could ask them that specific question if that would be something the court would be interested in having me do.
It's the threshold.
Yes.
I will tell you, I have not, I'll give you a chance to argue, but I've yet to hear any testimony that would persuade me that denial of parenting time is going to create a substantial risk of harm to either child's mental, physical, or emotional health. I mean, I get that grandparents are bonded to grandkids and grandkids are bonded to grandparents, and not being able to see a grandparent can be disappointing to a child. But this statute clearly contemplates something more than just simply a normal grandparent-grandchild relationship coming to an end. That there has to be something more to it than that, something that shows that there would be a substantial risk of harm to the child's mental, physical, or emotional health. And I don't want to spend a lot more time hearing general testimony of the general nature of what I've heard. I've heard virtually nothing as to the impact upon these children.
And I can appreciate that, Judge. The unfortunate thing is when children are ripped away from a family and we have no access to counseling or therapy or any type of an expert who can testify to those things, it can put us in a pretty difficult spot. But we have a situation here where it's pretty darn clear to me that these girls were very close with my client and very close with her side of the family, and they were essentially ripped away. And so for there not to be any potential chance for risk of harm because of that, I mean, I guess if I can, maybe I need to take a couple minutes and take a little closer look at the case law here, but there's never, I guess I'm not really sure how often there would ever be the availability to have any type of an expert weigh in on that. And it's solely going to be based on their family experiences as they grew up. I mean, again, I could, if the court would allow me to do a little bit of research here and see if there are any cases that may be analogous to the testimony here today. Again, once people are ripped away, there's not much that can be done. So I guess, the plan was to have Amber, Kim, and Sam and Uncle Ed testify. They're also family members who could testify about the close relationship these children had with this side of the family. But I mean, that's what it is. So if that's not enough for the court, then I guess I'd just like to take a brief recess to have an opportunity to take a closer look at the cases on that. But it seems that every single grandparenting complaint case would always be denied if there's no access to any expert to come in and say there's any chance for, I mean, we can't take custody. So, I'd love to get into more background on Ms. Keller, because I think her background is quite checkered, and I really feel sorry for these children. Mr. McDowell sounds like a not so great person as well, but we can't, from our perspective, take custody at this point. So I guess I would ask for maybe a brief recess to do a little bit of research on that specific issue, and then allow me to come back on and potentially ask Ms. Rowley more questions, or call these other family members to try to give more information. But all they can do is try to stress to the court the close relationship they had with these kids and the fact that they were ripped out. In my opinion, that's enough. Is it enough pursuant to the cases? I don't know, but if I can have that opportunity, I guess I'd ask for it. I won't need long. But I mean, that's the crux of this case, and it's going to be the crux of every grandparenting case, and these just don't come up there. So.
Well, and from my perspective, the sort of things you've addressed so far, I would anticipate to be the case in virtually every grandparent-grandchild relationship. So clearly the statute creates this presumption, requires proof to rebut the presumption, and if all we're talking about is the disappointment that any child would have in not being able to see their grandparent, it can't be that. Otherwise, I'd always end up awarding grandparenting time. And I don't think that's what the statute contemplates. I mean, I can certainly say there's nothing I'd like better than to see these children having a relationship with their grandmother and having that continue, being able to see her. She obviously is a very caring grandparent. She clearly loves these grandchildren. But I think that's always going to be the case. The statute clearly contemplates something more than that. I will grant you, it's not my job to do research. I simply pulled out from the family law bench book the section on grandparenting time. That's what I've got. If you can find something else more substantial that you can convince me would be sufficient to satisfy this standard, I'd be happy to hear. So I certainly am willing to give you some time to do some research, but I don't want to spend the rest of this day hearing the type of testimony I've heard, because it's my understanding of the standard. It's not going to sway me. The standard has to be met. So let me give you that chance, Mr. Fallahy. Let's take a break. What I'll do is I'm going to turn off the live stream. I'll keep the meeting room open. Peter, do you need to leave for any reason?
No.
All right. My law clerk will be here, and he'll let me know when you come back on and are ready to proceed. How's that?
That sounds fine. Thank you very much, Judge. I'll just take myself off I'll mute myself in the video and audio, and then I'll